That's Rashida Tlaib. She formally endorsed Bernie Sanders for president in Detroit over the weekend. And our very own Emma Vigeland actually had an exclusive one-on-one interview with Representative Tlaib. Let's watch.
I saw someone like Pete Buttigieg, he basically said that Medicare for all, Sanders and Warren supporting it infringes on people's freedoms. When you're going to a community like this where healthcare is certainly not guaranteed for your constituents, how do you respond to a statement like that?
Well, I can tell you, our residents, we're in the front lines of what doing nothing looks like, from the healthcare system to what's going on with our climate crisis. And residents are not being easily gaslighted to believe that that's what it's about. They believe, and this is something that, that's why Medicare for all is so important, is they understand how inhumane our healthcare system is in this country. The fact that people are dying because they're poor. Yeah. And that alone is enough for them to understand whatever Pete and others are saying about this issue. They're not believing it. They understand right now what's happening in the for-profit healthcare system is just killing people. It shows just how disconnected they are with the majority of American people right now that don't have access to healthcare.
So before we comment on the substance of what Rashida Tlaib had to say there was a lot of substance. I do want to tell you what Buttigieg said right before the last Democratic debate. Buttigieg is trying to focus on choice, not infringing on people's freedom to make that decision voluntarily, right? So this is a common talking point that we hear from corporatist Democrats, individuals who have not rejected corporate PAC money and are certainly influenced by the private healthcare industry. Don't be fooled by this myth of choice. This is all just a way to protect the private insurance companies. But Cenk, I think Rashida did a great job in answering that question. And it really does show you that there's a huge difference between progressives in the Democratic Party, people like Rashida Tlaib and members of the squad, and the corporatist Democrats like Buttigieg, who are much more concerned with protecting private industry.
Well, I love that, the way of framing it. Like, people would like to have a choice of whether they die from cancer or don't die from cancer. We're gonna take that freedom away from them by just making sure everyone has health care? Outrageous. People would like to have the choice of bankrupting themselves from private insurance or not at all bankrupting themselves and being part of insurance that covers everyone. That's not really that interesting a choice. Look, there's a lot that I loved about what Rashida Tlaib said, and this is why it's great to have strong progressives in Congress, because unfortunately, until this cavalry arrived, it was basically Bernie Sanders and I would argue Elizabeth Warren holding down the fort by themselves. She says, my community is the front lines of what it looks like to do nothing.
Exactly.
God, nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says that. Everybody's constantly, including all of the corporate media, talking about like, what if we do any change? Let me tell you all the terrible things about change. My God, it might cost the top 5% a little bit more money, which by the way, that is true. In Medicare for all, everyone in the bottom 95% pay less. That's a fact, okay? The top 5% do pay a little bit more. And so the corporate media flips out. They're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen to our beloved 5%? This is change, it costs.
Well, they're part of that 5%. Let's keep it real. I mean, members of the corporate media, they're either funded by individuals who are part of the top 5%, or they're part of the top 5% themselves because of their very lucrative contracts on television.
And Anna, when you say that, when Rashida Tlaib says that, they say, that's outrageous, how could you tell people the facts? Are you accusing us of bias? Yes, I am. So let's just be clear about that. So, because one of your massive biases is what Congresswoman Tlaib is saying there. How about the cost of not doing anything? The cost of not doing change. Right now, currently, our healthcare system costs twice as much on average as all other developed countries who all have single payer. How about the cost of this insanely expensive system put on all of us? How often have you heard Anderson Cooper say that? How often have you heard anybody on MSNBC say that? So-called, well, they don't even pretend to be progressive anymore, but that network that the mainstream media thinks is like, oh, MSNBC's on the left, right? No one says it, no one says it. So that's why these Justice Democratic congresswomen are so popular, because they're actually fighting for everyone, unlike any of the rest of the corporate Democrats that just sit there and take the money. By the way, Pete Buttigieg, he was for Medicare for all earlier in the year.
And then he started taking corporate PAC money. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that's important.
Because he took over $1 million from the healthcare industry, all of a sudden he's not for Medicare for all.
So he was asked previously, well, why did you first say that you would reject corporate PAC money and now you are reversing your decision on that? And he was quoted as saying, we're not gonna beat Trump with pocket change. So he is, using this excuse of, well, if we're gonna beat Trump, we can't rely on our messaging, we can't rely on policies that actually help people. We're gonna go ahead and rely on campaign donations so we can buy ads and we can push out this message.
Wait, Pete, what do you mean pocket change? Bernie Sanders outraised you, Elizabeth Warren outraised you.
It's a really good point.
So hey, I guess we can't go with Pete Buttigieg. He got outraised, he's got pocket change. So by his own definition, you should definitely not vote for him. I'm not saying that, Pete Buttigieg is saying that. He's saying, I got pocket change. Even though I went and I begged all the corporate donors and they gave me millions of dollars, I still couldn't keep up with the small dollar donations that Warren and Sanders have. So I guess since I have pocket change, I'm a loser and you shouldn't vote for me.
And Buttigieg isn't the only one who reversed course when it came to taking corporate PAC money. Unsurprisingly, if you ask me, Biden also reversed his course on that. And over the weekend, the New York Times ran a piece titled "Biden Campaign Drops Opposition to Super PAC Support." And if you pay close attention to Biden's message, it's still as confusing as ever. So it's not like there's been a big change in his messaging ever since he reversed course. But it is important to know that he'll promise one thing and then immediately change his mind. And part of the reason why is because his fundraising, his donations from small dollar donors really did dry up. Whereas with Bernie Sanders, the donations from small dollar donors continues.
No, let me be even more clear on the differences here. Look, Biden and Buttigieg are always taking corporate PAC money. Now Biden is saying, I'll also let super PACs take unlimited money. So a corporate PAC or corporate executives or lobbyists could give the Biden and Buttigieg $2,800 at a time. And so Biden has almost no small donors. They're all big donors already, even before he made the change. So, but all of his millionaire and billionaire donors tapped out at $2,800 and he's got nothing left to raise from them. So he goes, okay, fine, forget it, I meant super PACs. So the super PAC then comes in and goes to the $2,800 donors and goes, now you can give me $28,000, now you can give me $280,000, you can give me unlimited money because now Biden has said, there's no end to my corruption. I'll do whatever you guys tell me. By the way, Biden in the past has said, well, when somebody gives me $250,000, I'm gonna take their call after the election. He told rich donors, nothing will fundamentally change. He said that in this election cycle.
That's right. And so Representative Tlaib was asked by Emma Vigeland, all right, well, let's talk a little bit about the differences. Why is it that Bernie Sanders is able to reject this super PAC money? Take a look.
So you only took small dollar donations, you were a Justice Democrat. Senator Sanders is running on just small dollars, he's not doing big money donors. Can you talk about how that informs both of your values and why you've been supportive of him?
Yeah, I mean, this movement around, look, anybody that wants to take away the tainting of our democracy and give it back to the people, it has to start with them being our partners in this public service, in transforming our country. And it is individual donations that is going to do that, not corporate PACs. I won an election where I was the only candidate in the race that didn't take corporate PAC money, and I won. I won against establishment candidates, against those that were being supported by, very well-known organizations, community groups, and folks that believe that's that pathway to getting public service and folks to represent them. And then folks realize, no, we can't afford a sellout.
I love how she speaks so bluntly and honestly. That's what a representative is supposed to look like. And so when Justice Democrats said no corporate PAC money, people thought, well, that's impossible, you can't win, except they did win. Obviously, Tlaib, Omar, Presley, and AOC, let alone the incumbents like Ro Khanna and Pramila Jayapal and Grijalva. So then everybody's like, oh yeah, okay, good, no corporate PAC money, right? A lot of the presidential candidates said that. Some of them, as we pointed out earlier, did not say that. But the ones who were more establishment-like, they thought it was a gimmick. It's not a gimmick, it's real. And so when you don't take it, you're supposed to then represent the voters. You're supposed to do populist or progressive positions that the voters like, or whatever positions the voters like. But except they didn't bring those policies with them. They're just like, oh, okay, support me because I'm not taking corporate PAC money. Well, look, good. That's a great beginning, but you got to follow it up. And if you still go with the old corporate policies, it's still not popular. Look, guys, the dynamic of the race. So Warren's counted out in the beginning. Oh, she did some DNA tests, and so we're eliminating her. Ridiculous, right? So she does all those plans and policies, she rises to the top. And then Bernie has a heart attack, comes back, fights harder on getting money out of politics, starts calling out corruption, and is even more to the left of Warren. Guess what happened today? New poll out, CNN. Bernie's #1 in New Hampshire. What happened, mainstream media? I thought he was out. I thought you said he was eliminated. Who do you think is going to be in third place next? Is what the conversation was.
I'm very curious how Nate Silver is spinning the Vermont story.
100%, Anna. In fact, as soon as I saw that poll, I was like, hurry up, get Nate Silver to find out why this is the poll that doesn't matter.
Right.
This poll doesn't matter either. This one is. So he's at #1, Warren's at #2. So in Iowa, Warren's at #1, and nationally they're in the top 3. Hey, let me ask you guys something. Why is it that the most progressive candidates with almost no media help have risen to the top? Is it because Bernie is so charismatic? I don't know, mainstream media tells me he's not charismatic. Every day they tell me that, right? They told us that Warren was eliminated right in the beginning. So could it be that the voters are actually really progressive? Like that's the one theory that the mainstream media has never considered. Isn't that amazing? It's right there, it's so obvious. They keep going to the left of one another, Warren and Sanders. They're like, oh yeah, hold my beer. Here's an even more progressive policy plan. And they keep going rising and rising. And all the candidates that are in the conservative branch of the Democratic Party, which is almost all the rest of them, keep sinking. And they're still talking about Buttigieg. You know, the CNN poll that came out that has Bernie at #1 in New Hampshire, they said Klobuchar and Buttigieg were spiking.
Oh, come on.
I swear to God, at 5%.
Oh, come on. I can't. No, but just think about that for a second. I mean, think about how insanely powerful Bernie Sanders' message is, because he has everything working against him, right? He has this giant media infrastructure constantly working against him. You have people on social media spreading lies and nonsense, minimizing and belittling polls indicating that he's doing really well in these incredibly important states. It's just, and again, his message is so powerful that he still breaks through.
Okay, the other thing I want to give credit to Representative Tlaib on, that word gaslighting. That's exactly what the corporate media does and corporate Democrats do. So have you heard a single media outlet talking about, oh my God, huge news today, Bernie Sanders #1 in New Hampshire?
No.
We'll keep waiting. It's a poll, you know whose poll it is? CNN's poll, it's a CNN poll, right? Do you hear them like going nuts about it? No. Whenever there's any bad news with Bernie's out, out. Right?
Yeah.
Well, you said he was out 1,000 times, and right now he's #1 in one of the first 2 states, one of the most important states. How is that not interesting news to you?
Well, I don't think it's a question of whether or not it's interesting news. Bernie Sanders signals to them, I'm going to disrupt this system. He is the candidate who is abundantly clear about that. And this system has been very good for a select few. And a lot of those people work in media. A lot of those people have taken advantage of the system. So of course they're going to minimize that type of news, and they're going to pretend as though he's not really a threat. He's not really a thing. And again, look, there's the media, and then there's also the Democratic establishment. They still don't take him seriously. They still fight against him, and they're still trying to prop up various establishment candidates or corporatist candidates who keep failing. I mean, Klobuchar, failing. Buttigieg, failing.
You mean spiking.
I mean.
But Bernie has quadrupled the numbers of Buttigieg in New Hampshire. And if you ask almost any reporter in Washington who has a better chance of winning, they will say Buttigieg.
Of course they will.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then then they'll turn around and say you're biased. I'm looking at the polling, telling you who's at #1 and who's at like number 28. He's not at 28. Okay, he's I think in 5th or 6th place. And you're looking at the polling going, no, the guy in 5th is spiking.
Impressive.
The guy at #1 is already eliminated.
Can you imagine if Bernie? No, let's also flip it to Bernie losing support, which, obviously I don't want that to happen, but a little thought experiment. If he slips to the 5th place, how would the media cover that? How would the media cover that?
Are you kidding me? If Buttigieg was at #1 in New Hampshire and was polling at 21% in New Hampshire, right now there'd be a ticker tape parade on CNN and everywhere else. The New York Times would be like, oh, we knew it. We knew it, our beloved Buttigieg. Okay, and by the way, if you're asking from my statement earlier, if you take millions of dollars from corporate interests like the healthcare industry, and then you switch your position to being in favor of the healthcare industry and against the American people, if I think that's corruption, yes, I think that's corruption. And I think that makes politicians like Pete Buttigieg corrupt. Is that clear enough? And you're the one biased for not recognizing the obvious. Last thing is, Rashida Tlaib had that great shirt, Everybody versus Injustice. It looks a lot like our shirt, Progressives versus Everybody.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait, is that a TYT shirt? I'm not saying shop tyt.com, except I just said it. But the reason I brought it up, seriously, is that's why we say Progressives versus Everybody. Because we got the Republicans against us, the alt-right despises us. You got to battle the corporate media, you got to battle the rest of the Democratic Party. We're right on the facts. We're right that the voters want progressive policies. All the policies poll sky high, and now our candidates in the presidential level are polling sky high, and yet everyone else that is in power says no. Progressives are no good, and the only way to win is to pick a centrist Democrat to run against Trump, just like Hillary Clinton. You remember when she beat him? Oh, right, she didn't. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.